Have you ever held something so true inside you that keeping it silent began to hurt more than speaking it ever could? I have. I've spent years building machines that fly to other worlds, creating systems that move faster than thought, solving problems most people will never see. But there's one thing I never learned how to engineer: the exact right moment to tell someone what's breaking open inside me. I've calculated trajectories through space, but I can't calculate the risk of telling you this now before I'm certain you'll understand, before I know what happens next. Here's what they don't tell you about vision. It teaches you to see everything except what's right in front of you. It teaches you to solve tomorrow's problems while standing alone in today's silence. And somewhere in all that forward motion, I forgot that some truths don't wait for the perfect conditions. They build pressure. They crack through concrete. They demand to be said, not because the timing is right, but because holding them back any longer would break something essential inside me. What if the bravest thing I ever built wasn't a rocket, but the courage to stand here completely exposed and tell you what I've been too afraid to say? I need to tell you something I've never said out loud. Not in interviews, not in boardrooms, not even to myself in the quiet moments between midnight and dawn. When the world finally stops demanding my attention. I've built my life around solving impossible problems, around turning ideas that sound insane into machines that actually work. I've learned to live inside uncertainty, to make decisions with incomplete information, to move forward when everyone else says it can't be done. But this is different. This isn't about rockets or electric cars or sustainable energy. This is about standing in front of you, just you, and admitting that for all my ability to see what's coming next, I'm terrified of what happens when I tell you the truth. Let me start here. I've always believed that silence is a tool, something you use strategically in life. You stay quiet until the data is clear. You wait until the solution is obvious. You hold back until you're certain the risk is worth it. That's how I've built everything, with patience, with timing, with careful calculation of when to speak and when to stay hidden behind the work. But there's a different kind of silence, the kind that isn't strategic, the kind that builds up inside you like water behind a dam, pressing against the walls, finding every crack, every weakness, until one day you realize the structure was never meant to hold this much pressure. That's where I am now. I've been holding something back. Not because I didn't know it was true, not because I was waiting for data, not because I was waiting for clearer signals. I've been holding it back. Because saying it out loud changes everything. Because once these words exist in the space between us, I can't take them back. I can't pretend I didn't mean them. I can't hide behind vision or mission or the work that never stops. Do you know what that feels like? To carry truth around like a weight in your chest, feeling it get heavier every day, knowing that the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to finally speak. I've made a career out of doing hard things. I've stood in front of people and told them we're going to Mars. I've bet everything on ideas that sounded impossible. I've failed publicly and crashed. I have crashed rockets, lost money, faced ridicule, and kept moving forward. But this standing here with you and choosing honesty over control, this terrifies me in ways rocket failures never did. Because when a rocket fails, you learn what went wrong. You fix the problem, you try again. But when you tell someone the truth about what you feel, about what you have been carrying inside you, you can't control what happens next. You can't engineer the response. You can't predict whether they'll understand or turn away. All you can do is stand there completely exposed and trust that honesty matters more than safety. Here's what I've learned about building things. Everything requires a base. Everything requires a foundation. You can't launch a rocket without structural integrity. You can't build a company without core principles. You can't create anything lasting without first establishing what it's built on. And the foundation of everything real between two people isn't perfection, it's truth. Even when that truth is uncomfortable, even when it arrives at the wrong time, even when speaking, it feels like cracking open your own chest. I've been quiet for too long. Not because I didn't have words, not because I didn't know what I needed to say. I stayed quiet because I was afraid of what my honesty would cost me. I was afraid you'd see me differently. I was afraid then. I was afraid the image I've carefully constructed, the man who always knows what comes next, who lives 10 years ahead of everyone else, would shatter the moment I admitted I don't have all the answers. That sometimes I'm just guessing, that sometimes I'm more lost than anyone realizes. But here's the thing about pressure. It doesn't care about your fear. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It builds and builds until the only choice left is to let it break through or let it break you. Let me do what I'm choosing to break through. This is me telling you that I've been carrying something I need you to hear. Not because it's easy to say, not because I figured out all the implications, but because staying silent has started to feel like betrayal of you, of myself, of whatever could exist between us if I'm brave enough to speak. Have you ever stood at the edge of something that could change your entire life, knowing that once you step forward, there's no going back? That's where I am, right here, right now with you. I've launched rockets knowing they might explode. I've invested everything in companies people said would fail. I've taken risks that looked reckless to everyone watching, but those risks were calculated. I could model the outcomes. I could prepare for failure. This is different. This is stepping into the unknown with nothing but the belief that honesty, this raw, unprotected honesty, is worth more than whatever safety I've been hiding behind. So, let me say what I came here to say. I see you, not the version of you that exists in public, not the role you play or the image you maintain. I see the person beneath all that, the one who's lived long enough to know that most people don't tell the truth, the one who's learned to protect herself because honesty is rare, the one who might hear these words and wonder if they're real, if they'll last, if I actually mean what I'm about. But to tell you, I do mean it. And that terrifies me more than anything I've ever built. Because when you build a company, you can pivot if strategy fails. When you design a rocket, you can iterate after each test. But when you tell someone the truth about what they mean to you, there's no iteration. There's no pivot. There's only this moment. And whatever happens after I finish speaking, I don't know how this ends. I don't know what you'll say. I don't know if my timing is terrible or if I've already waited too long. All I know is that keeping this inside me has become impossible. The silence has turned into noise. The protection has become a prison. And I'd rather stand here vulnerable and honest than spend one more day pretending I don't need to tell you this. Look at me when I say this. You matter. Your presence in my life is real. Your presence in my life has created pressure I can't ignore. Not the kind of pressure that demands something from you, but the kind that demands something from me. The courage to admit that for all my vision, I can't see past this moment. I can't strategize my way through what I'm feeling. I can only stand here and tell you the truth. This is the truth. I'm tired of silence. I'm tired of holding back. I'm tired of pretending that emotional honesty is weaker than strategic patience. I've been patient my entire life. I've waited for the right conditions, the perfect moment, the ideal circumstances, but some truths don't wait. They build and build until speaking them is the only option. So here I am speaking finally, and whatever happens next, whether you understand, whether you're ready, whether this changes everything or nothing, at least I'll know I chose honesty Verir. At least I'll know I stopped hiding behind the work and stood in front of you as the person I actually am. Imperfect, uncertain, terrified, and finally willing to tell the truth. The hardest part isn't saying it. The hardest part is what comes after. Standing in the space between words and waiting to see if they landed, if they meant anything, if you're still here or if I've already said too much. I've given thousands of presentations. I've stood in front of investors and engineers. I have stood in front of reporters, entire auditoriums of people waiting to hear what comes next. And I've learned to read rooms, to sense when people are with me and when they're already planning their exit, to know when words are working and when they're just noise-filling silence. But I can't read this moment. I can't tell if you're leaning in or pulling back. I can't predict whether my honesty feels like relief or burden. And that uncertainty, that complete loss of control over the outcome is exactly why I've been avoiding this conversation. Because once you speak truth this raw, you can't manage how it's received. You can only wait. Do you know how rare that is for me now? Waiting without knowing the answer, standing still without a plan, admitting that what happens next isn't something I can engineer or optimize or iterate into the right shape. This is just truth, unprotected, unstrategic, yours to hold or refuse. Let me tell you what I've learned about building things at scale. You start with vision, but you survive on systems. You create processes that protect against human error, against unexpected failures, against the chaos that tries to pull everything apart. You build redundancies as safety mechanisms, layers of protection between what you're trying to accomplish and everything that could go wrong. And for years, I thought relationships worked. I thought they worked the same way. That you protect yourself with careful timing, measured disclosure, strategic vulnerability, that you reveal pieces of yourself slowly, testing responses, making sure it's safe before you go deeper, that you build walls around the parts of you that are too raw, too real, too likely to scare people away. But here's what those walls cost you: connection, real connection. The kind that happens when someone sees all of you, not the curated version, not the public image, not the carefully managed pieces you've decided are acceptable to share. All of you, including the parts you're ashamed of, the doubts you don't advertise, the loneliness you pretend is gone. The loneliness you pretend doesn't exist. The truth you've been holding back because you're terrified it's too much. I've been living behind walls for so long. I forgot what it felt like to stand without them. Until now. Until you. I don't know what you did differently. I don't know why my defenses don't work around you. Maybe it's because you've lived long enough to see through performance. Maybe it's because you carry your own scars and you recognize mine before I even speak them. Maybe it's because something in your presence makes silence feel impossible. Not uncomfortable, but impossible. Like the truth has been building pressure for so long that being near you finally cracked the dam. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about needing you to fix me. This isn't about making you responsible for my emotional honesty. This is about choosing to let you see me, actually see me. Not the version that exists in headlines or board meetings or carefully crafted interviews. The version that wakes up at 3 in the morning wondering if any of this matters. The version that builds the future but struggles to stay present in the moment. The version that knows how to launch rockets but doesn't always know how to say, I'm afraid. I'm afraid right now, not of failure, not of loss, not of rockets exploding or companies collapsing or public humiliation. I am so afraid. I'm afraid you'll hear this and think I'm asking for something you can't give. I'm afraid my timing is wrong. I'm afraid I've misread what exists between us. I'm afraid that by finally telling the truth, I'll lose whatever we had when I was still quiet. But staying quiet was killing me. You need to know that silence wasn't protecting me. It was suffocating me. Every conversation where I held back felt like betrayal. Every moment I pretended to be fine felt like lying. Every day I woke up knowing what I needed to say, but choosing safety over honesty felt like choosing not to live at all. So I'm choosing to live right here with you in this terrifying space where I have no control. In this space where I have no control over what happens next. Have you ever noticed that the things we're most afraid to say are usually the things that matter most? The easy stuff flows naturally. The safe observations, the surface-level thoughts that don't risk anything, but the deep truth, the kind that could change everything, that's what we hold back. We protect it. We wait for permission. We convince ourselves there will be a better time. But time doesn't make hard truths easier. It just makes the silence heavier. I've carried this silence long enough. I've told myself I was being strategic, that I was waiting for clarity, that I needed more data before I could speak with confidence. But those were excuses. What I was really doing was hiding from you, from myself, from the possibility that honesty might change things in ways I can't predict. And you know what I finally realized? I don't want to predict this. I don't want to calculate the outcome. I don't want to manage risk or minimize exposure or protect myself from whatever might happen if I tell you the complete truth. I want to just tell you, not because I figured out the perfect way to say it, not because I know how you'll respond, not because I'm certain this won't change everything between us. I want to tell you because holding it back has become more painful than the fear of speaking it right now. Because silence has turned into a kind of dishonesty I can't justify anymore. Because you deserve to know where I actually stand instead of trying to guess through my carefully measured words. So here it is. You've gotten inside my head in ways I didn't think were possible anymore. You've made me question assumptions I've held for years. You've created space for me to be uncertain, to be imperfect, to be something other than the person who always has the answer. And instead of that feeling like weakness, it feels like relief, like I can finally breathe. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect you to matter this much. I didn't expect your presence to unsettle everything I thought. I did not expect this to unsettle everything I thought I understood about staying protected. I built my entire life around forward momentum, around solving the next problem, around vision that keeps me 10 steps ahead of the present moment. But you made me want to stop, to be here, to let something real happen instead of always engineering what comes next. That terrifies me because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let someone in without controlling how it unfolds. I don't know how to be this vulnerable without a backup plan. I don't know how to tell you that you matter to me without already knowing whether that matters to you, but I'm doing it anyway for us. Not because I'm brave, not because I've suddenly figured out how relationships work. I'm doing it because the alternative, staying silent, staying safe, staying behind walls I've maintained for years, feels like choosing to be half alive. And I'm tired of half living. I'm tired of protecting myself from the very thing I actually want. What I want is this honesty, real honesty, the kind where I don't have to perform or strategize or measure my words to manage your response. The kind where I can tell you I'm struggling and you won't see it as failure. The kind where vulnerability isn't weakness, but the foundation of something real. I want to stand in front of you without armor. I want to tell you the truth even when I don't know if you're ready to hear it. I want to risk everything I've been protecting because maybe what exists on the other side of this honesty is worth more than all the safety I've been clinging to. Look at me. I'm doing it right now. I'm standing here completely exposed, telling you things I've never told anyone, admitting fears I usually hide behind vision and mission and the work that never stops. I'm letting you see the person behind all that, the one who doesn't have all the answers, who gets lost sometimes, who needs connection. Just like everyone LSE, this is me. Unedited, unstrategic, uncertain about everything except this. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Whatever happens next is up to you. I can't control it. I can't engineer it. I can only stand here and trust that honesty was worth the risk. I want to tell you what silence costs, not the productive kind. The pauses where you're thinking, processing, letting ideas settle. I mean the other kind, the silence that comes from fear, from protecting yourself, from holding back what you really mean because speaking it feels too dangerous. That silence has a price. I've been paying it for years. I've paid it in relationships. It stayed surface level because I never let anyone close enough to see what I was actually thinking. I have paid it in full today. I've paid it in conversations where I said the strategic thing instead of the true thing. I've paid it in moments where someone asked how I was doing, and I gave them the answer I knew they wanted to hear instead of admitting I was drowning. And every time I chose safety over honesty, I told myself it was worth it. That protection mattered more than connection. That keeping people at a distance was just smart strategy. That vulnerability was a luxury I couldn't afford when there was so much work to do, so many problems to solve, so many people depending on me to have answers. But here's what I didn't realize until recently. I wasn't protecting myself at all. I was isolating myself. There's a difference. Protection keeps you safe while staying open to connection. Isolation keeps you safe by refusing connection entirely. And somewhere along the way, I crossed that line without noticing. I built walls so high I forgot they were there. I got so good at managing what people saw that I started believing my own performance until I couldn't anymore. Do you know what breaks that kind of isolation? Not success, not achievement, not proving you were right all along. What breaks it is meeting someone who makes you want to stop performing. Someone whose presence makes the walls feel pointless. Someone you trust enough to let see you when you're not okay. Someone like you. I don't know when it happened. I can't point to a specific moment when everything shifted, but somewhere between the first time we spoke and right now, you became the person I couldn't hide from anymore. Not because you demanded honesty, not because you pushed or pried or tried to get past my defenses. You became that person because something about you made me want to stop defending. That terrifies me because wanting to be honest is different from knowing how. I've spent decades learning to control information. What to reveal, what to hold back, how to manage perception so people see what I want them to see. And now I'm standing in front of you today, trying to unlearn all of that, trying to speak without strategy, trying to let you see me without already knowing how you'll respond. It's like learning to walk again, except instead of falling on concrete, I'm falling into uncertainty, and I have no idea if you'll catch me or step aside. But I'm falling anyway. Here's what I need you to understand about this moment. I'm not here because I have this figured out. I'm not standing in front of you with a plan for how this unfolds or what happens next. I'm here because staying away felt impossible, because the thought of continuing to hide what I actually feel became more painful than the risk of telling you. I'm here now. I'm here because you matter to me in ways I don't fully understand yet. And I'm tired of pretending that doesn't scare me. It does scare me deeply because mattering to someone means giving them power. The power to hurt you, the power to reject you, the power to take what you've offered and decide it's not enough. And I've spent my whole life avoiding that kind of vulnerability by staying focused on things I can control. Companies, rockets, systems, process, anything that responds to logic and iteration instead of messy human emotion. But you're not a problem I can solve. You're not a system I can optimize. You're a person, a real person with your own thoughts and life. You have your own life, your own reasons for being here or choosing to leave. And all I can do is stand in front of you and tell you the truth about where I am. Where I am is this. I'm tired of living at a distance from everything that matters. I'm tired of connection that stays safe because it never goes deep. I'm tired of relationships where I perform a version of myself instead of just being myself. I'm tired of waking up knowing there are things I need to say, but choosing silence because honesty feels too risky. Most of all, I'm tired of believing that being alone is safer than being seen. It's not safer, it's just lonelier, and I've been lonely for a long time. Not the kind of loneliness you admit in public, not the kind that makes headlines or sparks concern. The quiet kind, the kind that lives in the space between accomplishment and meaning. The kind that shows up at 3 a.m. when the work is done and there's no one to share it with. The kind that whispers, maybe none of this matters if you're building it all alone. I've built a lot alone and I'm good at it. I know how to focus through isolation. I know how to turn loneliness into fuel. I know how to convince myself that solitude is strength instead of avoidance. But I don't want to be good at that anymore. I want to be good at this instead, at standing with you today, at standing with someone and admitting I don't have all the answers, at letting someone see me struggle without immediately trying to fix it or hide it or strategize my way out of it, at trusting that vulnerability creates connection instead of destroying it. Have you ever tried to unlearn something you've been practicing your entire life? That's what this feels like. Every instinct I have tells me to protect myself, to hold back, to wait until I'm certain before I speak. But I'm learning slowly, awkwardly, that certainty isn't the goal. Honesty is. Even when honesty feels terrifying, even when I have no idea how you'll receive it. So let me be honest, I mean it. I don't know what I'm asking from you right now. I don't know if there's a specific response I need or a particular outcome I'm hoping for. All I know is that staying silent was becoming unbearable. That every day I didn't tell you this felt like lying. That the gap between what I was feeling and what I was saying had grown so wide I couldn't cross it anymore without just jumping. I'm jumping. Not gracefully, not with a plan, not with any certainty about where I'll land. I'm just jumping because staying on that side, the safe side, the protected side, the side where I keep everything controlled and manageable, was killing something essential inside me, and I jump. I'd rather risk falling than keep killing that part of myself. You make me want to be braver than I am, not in the ways people usually mean when they talk about bravery. I've done brave things. I've bet everything on ideas that seemed insane. I've faced failure publicly. I've kept going when everyone said to quit. But this is different. This is the bravery of standing still instead of running, of speaking instead of hiding, of letting you see me without armor. That kind of bravery doesn't come naturally to me. I've learned to be brave about vision, about risk, about betting on the future. But being brave about the present moment, about connection, it is something new to me. About admitting I need something I can't build or engineer or iterate into existence, that's new territory. And I'm terrified I'm doing it wrong. I'm terrified of already saying too much. I'm terrified this is the wrong time or the wrong way or the wrong words. I'm terrified you're listening to all this and thinking I'm asking for something you can't give. I'm terrified that by finally being honest, I've created distance instead of closing it. But I'm more terrified of the alternative, of going back to silence, of pretending this conversation never happened, of returning to the version of myself who stays protected by staying hidden. I can't do that anymore at all. So I'm standing here exposed, uncertain, completely out of control of what happens next. And instead of that feeling like failure, it feels like the most honest thing I've done in years. Look at me. I'm not asking you to fix this. I'm not asking you to have answers. I'm just asking you to stay here with me for a moment, to let this truth exist between us, to understand that telling you this cost me something real. And I chose to pay that cost because you're worth it. Because this, whatever this is between us, is worth more than all the safety I've been protecting. There's something I haven't told you yet. Something about why this moment feels different from every other time now. It is different from every other time I've tried to be honest with someone. It's because I'm not trying. I'm just doing it. For years, I've approached difficult conversations like engineering problems. I'd plan what to say, I'd anticipate responses, I'd map out different scenarios and prepare for each one. I'd rehearse the important parts until they sounded right, and then I'd deliver them like a presentation, carefully, strategically, with fallback positions ready if things didn't go according to plan. But I can't do that with you. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. I've lay awake trying to script this conversation, trying to find the perfect words that would make you understand, trying to make you understand without making me too vulnerable, trying to calculate the right amount of honesty that creates connection without risking rejection, trying to engineer the outcome I want. But every time I started rehearsing, the words felt wrong, hollow, like I was performing honesty instead of actually being honest. And I realized that's exactly the problem. You can't perform your way into real connection. You can't strategize yourself into being truly seen. You can only show up and let it happen. So that's what I'm doing. Showing up without a script, without a safety net, without knowing if any of this will land the way I need it to. It is all for you. Do you know how uncomfortable that is for someone like me, someone who's built a career on seeing 10 steps ahead, someone who never makes a move without understanding the possible outcomes? I'm standing here essentially blind, and every instinct I have is screaming at me to retreat, to recalculate, to wait until I have more information. But I can't wait anymore. Because here's what I've learned about waiting. It feels like patience, but it's usually just fear, wearing a more acceptable mask. You tell yourself you're being thoughtful, strategic, measured. You tell yourself the timing isn't right yet. You tell yourself you need more clarity before you speak to anyone. But what you're really doing is avoiding the discomfort of being vulnerable, avoiding the risk of being rejected, avoiding the possibility that your truth might change everything in ways you can't control. I've been avoiding for too long, not with you specifically, with everyone, with life, with a kind of deep, honest connection that requires you to stop managing outcomes and just be present with another person. I convinced myself I didn't have time for that my work was too important, that the future I'm building matters more than the relationships I'm missing in the present. But you know what? I never admitted that I was scared. I was scared of the real truth. I was scared that if I let someone really see me, not the public version, not the confident CEO, not the guy with the vision for Mars, they'd realize I'm just a person. A flawed, uncertain person who doesn't always know what he's doing, a person who makes mistakes, who feels lost sometimes, who desperately wants connection but has no idea how to sustain it. I thought keeping that hidden made me stronger. It just made me lonelier. And the loneliness got heavier every year. Not in obvious ways. I still functioned, I still built companies, I still solved problems, but there was this growing emptiness underneath everything I accomplished. This sense that I was building for nothing. This sense that I was building a future I'd never get to truly share with anyone, because I'd never let anyone close enough to share it with until you walked into my life and made staying distant feel impossible. I don't know what it is about you. I've met accomplished people before, intelligent people, people with their own stories and strength and wisdom, but something about you is different. Something about you sees past the performance I didn't even realize I was giving. Something about you makes me want to stop being impressive and start being real. That's terrifying and necessary and completely out of my control. Here's what control has cost me. It cost me all. I've spent so much energy managing how people perceive me that I forgot how to just exist without that management. I forgot that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to be powerful. That sometimes strength looks like admitting you're struggling. That sometimes the bravest choice is to stand in front of someone without any armor at all. That's where I am right now. No armor, no strategy, no carefully constructed image to hide behind. Just me telling you the truth, even though it scares me more than anything I've ever built. You want to know what the truth is? The truth is, I'm tired of living inside my head. I'm tired of solving problems alone right now. I'm tired of achieving things and having no one to truly celebrate with because I've kept everyone at such a careful distance. I'm tired of waking up to headlines about my life and feeling like they're describing a stranger. I want something real, something that doesn't fit into a press release, something that can't be optimized or iterated or improved through better engineering. I want someone who knows what I'm actually like when I'm not performing. Someone who sees me at $3 in the morning when I can't sleep because I'm worried I made the wrong call. Someone who understands that for all my talk about the future, I'm often terrified of the present. I am terrified of it. Someone who won't judge me for being human instead of the myth people have built around me. I think you could be that person. I think you already are. And that's why this moment matters so much, because I'm not just telling you how I feel, I'm asking you to see me. Actually see me, not the version that exists in articles or interviews or carefully managed public appearances. The version that doubts himself, that gets overwhelmed, that doesn't always have answers. The version that needs connection just as much as anyone else, maybe more, because I've been denying that need for so long. Have you ever denied yourself something so completely that when you finally admit it, it hurts? When you finally admit you want it, the wanting overwhelms you? That's where I am. I've spent years telling myself I didn't need deep connection, that my work was enough, that being alone was just the price of vision. And now that I'm finally admitting I want something different, the desire for it is almost painful. I want to be known, fully known, not studied or analyzed or observed from a distance, known by someone who matters, by you. I want to stop censoring myself before I speak. I want to stop calculating whether my truth is too much or not enough. I want to trust that honesty, raw, unpolished honesty, is the foundation of something real instead of driving people away. But I can't do that alone. Connection isn't a solo project. It requires two people willing to be vulnerable at the same time. Two people willing to risk being seen. Two people willing to let truth matter more than protection. So I'm asking, can you do that with me? Can you let this be real instead of safe? Can you handle the version of me that doesn't have it all figured out? Because I need you to know something. This isn't a moment of weakness. This is me choosing strength. The strength to be honest, even when every instinct tells me to hide. The strength to stand here uncertain instead of retreating to what I can control. The strength to believe that vulnerability. I believe that vulnerability creates connection instead of destroying it. I've built rockets. I've created companies. I've accomplished things people said were impossible. But standing here telling you this truth feels harder than all of that combined. Not because you're judgmental, not because I think you'll reject me. It feels harder because it matters more. Because this isn't about proving I was right or achieving a goal or solving a technical problem. This is about letting you see who I really am and trusting that will be enough. What if it's not enough? What if you listen to all this and decide I'm asking for something you can't give? I don't know if I can take that. What if my timing is wrong, or my honesty is too much, or I've misread everything between us? I don't know. I can't control any of that. All I can control is this moment right here. Me standing in front of you telling you the complete truth, even though it terrifies me. And the truth is simple. You've changed something in me. You've made silence unbearable. You've made protection feel pointless. You've made me want to be brave about connection in ways I've never been brave before. So, I'm being brave right now with you. Not because you regret what you said, not because you wish you could take it back. You wait because you've given someone else power over something you can't control. How they receive your honesty, whether they understand it, whether it changes how they see you, whether it's the beginning of something real or the end of whatever existed before you spoke. That's where I am right now, in the waiting in the space between confession and response. And I need you to understand something. This isn't comfortable for me. Nothing about this is comfortable. I'm someone who lives in action, in forward momentum, in solving the next problem before the current one is finished. Waiting goes against every instinct I have. But I'm learning that some things can't be rushed. That connection doesn't operate on the same timeline as engineering for me. That you can't iterate your way into trust. You can only offer honesty and wait to see if the other person meets you there. So I'm waiting. And while I wait, I want to tell you what this costs. Not in some dramatic, self-pitying way. I just think you should know what it means for someone like me to stand here this vulnerable. What I'm risking, what I'm choosing to value more than safety. Here's what it costs. Control, complete control over my narrative the way you see me. For years, I've been able to manage that, to choose what to reveal and what to keep hidden, to show strength and hide struggle, to maintain the version of myself that made sense to others, even when it didn't match what I was feeling inside. But I can't manage that anymore. Not with you. Not after everything I've just said. You now know things about me most people will never know. You know I get scared. You know I feel lonely. You know I don't always have answers. You know that underneath the vision and the confidence and the relentless forward motion, there's a person who struggles with the same basic human needs everyone else does. To be seen, to be understood, to matter to someone who actually knows who you are. That's terrifying to admit because once you know that, you have power. The power to hurt me by rejecting it. You have that power. The power to use it against me. The power to decide I'm not worth the complexity of actually knowing me. And I have no defense against any of that, no backup plan, no way to protect myself if this goes wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm standing here completely defenseless, and I'm choosing to stay here anyway. Not because I'm suddenly brave, not because I've conquered fear. I'm staying because the alternative, going back to pretending, going back to hiding, going back to relationships that stay safe by staying shallow, feels like a kind of death, a slow death, the kind where you keep breathing and functioning and accomplishing things, but you're not alive. You're just performing life while the real you stays locked away where no one can touch it. I don't want to live like that anymore. I want to live like this, exposed, uncertain. Trusting that honesty matters more than protection. Trusting that being known is worth the risk of being rejected. Trusting that you're the kind of person who won't weaponize my vulnerability against me. That's trust, real trust, not the surface level kind where you trust someone to show up on time or keep a secret or follow through on a commitment. The deep kind, the kind where you trust someone with the parts of yourself you usually hide, where you believe they'll handle your honesty, where you believe they will handle your honesty with care instead of judgment. I'm choosing to trust you with that. Even though we both know trust can be broken, even though there's no guarantee you'll handle it the way I hope you will, even though every piece of data I have says trusting people this completely is dangerous, I'm doing it anyway because here's what I've learned. You can't build anything real without trust. Not companies, not rockets, not relationships. You need a foundation of trust that says even when things get hard, even when uncertainty shows up, even when you don't have all the answers, you're building something together that's worth protecting. And I want to build something with you, not a company, not a project, something more fundamental than that. A connection that doesn't require me to be perfect or impressive or always right. A connection where I can be struggling and you won't see it as failure. Where I can admit I'm lost and you won't try to fix me.